Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren and today's video is going to be on a little bit of a taboo topic. Nobody really wants to talk about this and I kind of get why. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I think it's time. I'm going to be talking about toilet anxiety, toilet phobia, whatever you want to call it, but basically the anxiety or fear that can surround needing to use the toilet. Some of you might be like, what the hell are you talking about? And in which case, hooray for you. But there will be others, I know for sure, that'll be like, I know what you're talking about. I got you, girl. So for those of you who know what I'm talking about, definitely keep watching. Sorry about my dog just grooming himself in the background. Hi. He always does this when I'm filming. He either barks or we'll just do something wildly inappropriate. But anyway, where was I going with that? He's just blanked me. Nobody really wants to talk about toilet anxiety, like I said, which, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a shame because it's something that I dealt with a lot with my anxiety disorder. It was a huge issue for me and it took me ages to overcome it. And also, out of all the people who've messaged me and emailed me over the years and we've spoken about their issues with anxiety, I know that definitely more than half of them have dealt with this as well. So I know it's not just me. I think it's something that kind of comes with the territory with anxiety disorder, and the fact that nobody really wants to come out and say it, although definitely a few have, but it's not, you know, one of the common things that you hear about. It's annoying because having an anxiety disorder can already kind of feel embarrassing enough without having to say, oh, by the way, another fun symptom is that I always feel like I'm gonna shit my pants. Yeah. I know that in the beginning of me developing this toilet anxiety, I didn't want to speak to my doctor about it because it was embarrassing to talk about. And I wish that there had been a video like this when I had first started dealing with this, because maybe then I wouldn't have felt like such a freak and I actually stopped that. Hey. And I actually maybe would have gone to get help and known how to deal with it. So if this video helps at least one person out there going through the same thing, or just helps them to know that they're not alone, then that is awesome. And if not, I'm just gonna bring the lols with some, you know, jokes about shit. So if you don't want to watch, that's fine, I totally get it. But if this sounds like you or somebody you know deals with this issue, then keep watching because I'm gonna share some of the ways in which I sort of overcame it. And yeah, let's just get real about anxiety for a while here. So anyway, toilet anxiety, toilet phobia, it can manifest as different things. For me, personally, it was a feeling like I always needed to go to the toilet. I always just had this sensation that I either needed to go ones or twos, but also it was just always there, just this feeling of like I need to go to the bathroom. And then because of that, I always felt like I had to be near a bathroom, and then if I wasn't near a bathroom, I would panic because I'd be like, what if I can't get to a bathroom in time? And what if I just accidentally shit myself in front of everybody? And I'd have these visions of it happening to me and like everybody just like pointing and laughing at me, and then me just like never being able to recover from that. And obviously that's like completely disproportionate to the actual event, but you know, everybody knows anxiety isn't logical, isn't rational, so that was what it was for me. I know it can also be a fear of using public toilets, only feeling safe using your own toilet, which, as you can imagine, creates problems because then you pretty much can't leave the house. And, you know, I know what that's like. So it can also be maybe a fear of bodily functions, like a fear of the sensation of having to go to the toilet or the sensation of going to the toilet. My toilet anxiety issues kind of cameoed as that for a while. When I was pregnant, I had a couple of months where I was just terrified of the feeling of needing to pee, and, you know, that it was just something I couldn't avoid, especially because I felt like I needed to pee all the time. As you can imagine, it was a fun couple of months for me. So the thing about toilet anxiety or toilet phobia is that it can seem like a really comical thing. Can you just sit down? The thing about toilet anxiety or toilet phobia is that it can seem like not much of a big deal if you're somebody who hasn't been through it. But it honestly can overtake your life, because think of how many times a day you go to the toilet. I mean, I know for me, when I've been like trying to increase my water intake in the last couple of weeks in like my quest to get healthy, I have been peeing non-stop. Like I am always in the toilet, and you know, at least now I know not to be anxious about it. But you know, you can't avoid going to the toilet. It's a natural thing. Everybody poops, as that kid's book says. And so it's just not something you can escape from. And so if you have this intense fear surrounding going to the toilet, I mean, how many times a day are you going to have to deal with that? And if you end up setting your life around when you're going to need to go to the toilet, that really gets in the way of everything. You know, you can't be in the car for longer than 5 minutes in case you need to go to the toilet. That was one of my really big things. It is really an overwhelming thing to deal with. You know, I know when I said to my friends in the beginning, I feel like I need to pee all the time, and they were like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, no, really, like I really feel like I need to pee all the time. And what if I accidentally just pee? Like, what happens? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, if it happens, that'll be hilarious. Like, who cares? And I was like, no, honestly, like what if it happens to me? And it was like, for me, it was on par with like dying. Like it was just such a terrifying prospect, and I was convinced that it was going to happen to me. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a funny thing, like, haha, you're scared you're going to shit yourself, but it honestly can be something that is just so incredibly overwhelming and just completely takes over your life, and it is not, there's no part of it that is fun or funny. I'm laughing about it now in this video because honestly, if you can't laugh, what can you do? But I know if you're someone who's going through it, I know how hard it is. I've been there, and I know how much it sucks. So please don't think that I'm making, you know, like this whole lighthearted thing. I'm just trying to bring some humor to the topic. Just trying to make you feel more comfortable about it, because it should be something that you're comfortable with. On that note, so there are a couple of things that honestly, this dog like is just gonna be a video of him grooming himself. Pig. Alright, Pig has been booted from the room, but you'll have to forgive him. It is his birthday today, so you know, if he wants to lick down there, then today is the day he can do it. Anyway, there are a couple of things that I did to sort of help myself with my toilet anxiety issues. In the beginning, for me, it was mainly centered around the feeling of needing to pee, and then it kind of progressed into just constantly fearing that I was just going to crap my pants spontaneously. The first thing that I did was I went to see a doctor, and this is the first thing that I recommend everybody does if they haven't done already and they're dealing with this issue, because there may be some underlying reason why this is happening to you. There may not be as well. It could possibly just be anxiety, but there could be something physical, and obviously that's something that you want to rule out beforehand. When I went to the doctor, I got diagnosed with IBS, which was a pain. And there were things that I did to counteract my having IBS attacks or whatever, but it also was a double-edged sword, because once I had been diagnosed with IBS, I was like, I don't know, it was just kind of, it gave me a way to sort of be more anxious, if that makes sense. Like I was like, oh, now I have to worry about that on top of everything else, and it just, like, it would have almost have been nicer to just never have given myself that label. But anyway, regardless, it's a really important thing to go to the doctor and make sure that there is nothing physically going on. If there is, you can obviously take steps to deal with that. And if you're somebody who has a digestive disorder, like maybe Crohn's disease, or you have IBS, or ulcerative colitis, I'm so sorry if I'm not saying that right. For some reason I just can't picture how it's spelled in my head. Ulcerative colitis, I think that's right. But yeah, if you're somebody who deals with those issues, then probably you've already been to many doctors and you know that there is something physical going on, but then that in itself can give you toilet anxiety. So it's just a whole like circle of anxious love here. The next thing that I did on that note is that I started to clean up my diet. I had to do that because I was dealing with IBS, but it honestly helped with my issues with anxiety, because there were so many foods that I was eating that were irritating my gut, and the foods that were making me like spontaneously crap my pants, not literally crap my pants, but foods that were just, you know, just making my digestion just horrendous. And you know, I had to avoid those. I did the low FODMAP diet for about 6 months. I was really strict with it, and then slowly I started to reintroduce other foods that you know, could be considered like trigger foods. There are still some foods that I can't eat. I actually had sauerkraut the other day, and like Jordan was like, you are banned from eating that for life. Like, you are disgusting. Because yeah, well, you know, sauerkraut, it makes you fart. So I was just like this big ball of gas for a couple of days, and honestly it was just like horrendous. Like I had stomach pains, and I was like, get this out of me. Like, it was just no good. I can't have any fermented foods with my IBS. You know, whatever. None of that for me. There's no TMI in this video either, because we're talking about shit, so I really just can't get any more, you know, intimate than we are. Yeah, I had to cut out a lot of foods, and I had to really just clean up my diet. And then once I had done that and I had sort of settled my gut issues, it helped me to know that if I was out driving in the car and I suddenly had this fear of like, oh my god, what if my bowels just explode? And I would be able to say to myself, well, that's not going to happen, because, you know, you haven't had an IBS attack in like 6 months because you've been doing really well with your diet and stuff, and like you haven't eaten any trigger foods, you'll be fine. So I kind of knew that it, you know, it wasn't something that I had to worry about, sort of thing. I mean, I still did worry about it, but it sort of was just a bit of a weight off my mind. So that was something that was really helpful. And also there are a lot of foods that can actually exacerbate anxiety, and not eating those foods, like for example caffeine. I do have caffeine now, but I cut it out for a long time, and that helped me enormously. So yeah, cleaning up your diet if you have toilet issues, toilet anxiety, just knowing what foods you can eat and knowing what foods you can't eat is going to be really helpful. It's just a matter of trying to like trial and error, and what food is going to make your gut go crazy and what food is just going to be fine. So the next thing I did after that was I really learned to get back in touch with my body. I've spoken about this before in a lot of my other videos, because it was just such a huge aspect of having an anxiety disorder, and that was that I had no connection with my body. Like, it felt like my mind and my body were completely separate, and it felt like my body was my enemy, like working against me and trying to fuck me up all the time and trying to embarrass me, because, you know, like randomly it'd just start panicking, and I'd be like, all right, so we're freaking out, are we? And my body would be like just losing it in the most inappropriate moments. And it just felt like my body was working against me. And so I didn't trust my body, but in the same respect, there he goes. I didn't trust my body, but in the same respect, I was over aware of everything that was happening in my body. Like every tiny sensation I would pick up on, and I would be like, that means danger. That means my body is just going to lose control completely and everything bad is going to happen. So in order to strengthen that connection, I started doing exercise every day. This was kind of something that I'd done sort of anyway, but I really started to focus on the mind-body connection with exercise and really sort of coming into my own body. So yoga was the first thing that I did to really help with that. And Yoga with Adrienne, you can find her on YouTube, is my favorite. She's amazing. She does some amazing videos. She does some for anxiety in particular. And I think she even does some for gut health, but she's just really, really incredible. And she really helped me to just sort of get back in touch with my body and to love my body again and to not be afraid of it. So that was one of the big things. And then eventually I was able to use other forms of exercise, like running is a new one that I've been doing as a way to sort of reconnect with myself. Even just like going to the gym in general, like weight training, doing PT. It was just so amazing proving to myself that my body is capable of these incredible things. You'd think that having a baby would have taught me that, but I was a bit slow on that one. Yeah, and just my body can do all this awesome stuff that I just wasn't giving it credit for. And then it really made me understand that I am in control of my body, and it's not my body working against me, it's not my mind working against my body. It's like I'm all in this together. Like it's all cohesive, and I've got to respect my body as well as respecting my mind and all that kind of stuff. And just, I feel like exercise was the best way that I relearned how to listen to my body, how to understand my body, and how to reconnect with it. I probably said reconnect like 50,000 times in the last 2 minutes, but that was a huge thing, like just getting back in touch with my body. The next thing that I did was I started to really push the boundaries with the feelings of needing to go to the toilet. Now this is kind of basically the same thing as exposure therapy, and it took me a long time to do this, because I guess the issue is when you're doing exposure therapy and you're like, well, what happens if I have a panic attack? But you can kind of eventually convince yourself that I'm not gonna die from a panic attack. It's never happened to anyone, it's not gonna happen to me. But then on the flip side, you can't 100% guarantee that you're not gonna randomly shit your pants one day from fear. Like you just can't guarantee. Yeah, I just couldn't be 100% sure that it wasn't gonna happen. So I just, for so long, I just didn't want to push the envelope with it. I was like, you know what, I'm not, like if I feel like I need to pee, I'm just not gonna test it. I'm just gonna go and pee. And I remember there's been a couple of times where I've been with my partner and he's been like, you don't need to pee. You literally just went to the toilet. And I was like, no, I need to pee again. He's like, honestly, there will be nothing in there. Like, actually, this is a side story, but he got me tickets to see Incubus, which is one of my favorite bands. And we flew to Adelaide to see them. This was obviously before I dealt with agoraphobia, but that whole concert, I think honestly, out of the 3 or 4 hour concert, I maybe only saw 3 songs, because I spent the entire time pretty much downstairs in the toilets, because I'd be watching them play and then I'd be like, I need to pee, run down to the toilets, pee, come back up, I'd be like, oh, I need to pee again, and then I'd run back down to the toilets. And thankfully Jordan was just so nice about it, and he, you know, imagine spending all this money on someone and getting them tickets to see their favorite band, and then they just don't even watch the show because they're just downstairs in the toilet, not even peeing, like just sitting on the toilet going, I'm sure I needed to pee 2 seconds ago. But you know, he was cool with it. He's dealt with all my issues before, so he knows. Yeah, where did that story come from? Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, for ages I was too scared to test the theory of like, do I need to pee right now? But then I got to the stage where I'd gotten quite good with exposure therapy for my agoraphobia, and I thought, you know what, I have proven to myself that I can do a lot of things that I think I can't do. So maybe next time I think I need to pee, when I've literally just gone to the toilet 5 minutes before, maybe I can hold it for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, let's see. So I'd be in the car, whereas usually if I was in the car and I had the sensation of needing to go, I would like go back home most of the time, or I would, you know, find the nearest bathroom. Whereas this time I was like, you know what, I'm gonna wait for like 10 minutes until I get to a service station 10 minutes away, or I'm gonna wait until I get to where I'm going. And a lot of the time I actually found that I would forget about needing to pee. And yeah, I mean, it just proved to me that I was like, I'm just making this all up in my head. So I knew that I really was just bullshitting myself when I told myself that I needed to go right now. And I was like, let's just see what happens if I just don't go right now. And so that was what I did. I just started pushing it longer and longer and just trying to hold on. And I found that I could hold on. Surprise, surprise. The next thing that helped me was talking about it. Obviously, this is something I'm doing now as well. And truly, this was something I debated for a while, because I thought, do I really want to put a video of myself on YouTube talking about going to the toilet? And then I thought, like, I've been so freaked out about this for so long. Like, I feel so much shame and embarrassment surrounding this, and I don't want someone else to feel this way if they're going through the same thing. So that's why I'm putting this on here. When I started talking about it and telling people, you know, this is how I feel, just being real about it, because I used to When I'd get the feeling that I needed to go to the toilet, I'd say, oh, I don't feel very well, I have to go to the bathroom, or I'd make up some reason to why I had to go to the bathroom. And now I'm like, oh God, I'm feeling a bit anxious, it's making me feel like I need to pee, I gotta go to the toilet. And that helps me to just sort of normalize it and not make it such a big deal, because the problem is when you make it this huge deal and this secretive thing, it just makes you more anxious about it and more stressed, and that just makes it not fun to deal with, because you're so embarrassed about it, and it's like this little secret that you can't tell anyone, you don't want anyone to find out about, and then it just becomes this big thing in your head. Leading on from that, I really did a lot of work in figuring out what the fear was surrounding needing to go to the toilet. Like, why was I so afraid of not making it to the toilet? And so the first thing that I figured out was it was just my basic bullshit fear of judgment, just feeling like I'm not good enough and that people are gonna find that out about me. That was a big one for me that I had to work through. And the second thing was I felt like if I lost control of my bowels or my bladder, I felt like that meant that I had no control over my life. I had no control over the direction my life was going or the decisions I was making, or I just felt like it would mean that everything was terrible because I had no control. It's very interesting the things we make things mean. And so I really had to look at that and say, okay, so if I were to randomly wet my pants one day, does that mean that I'm not in control of my life? Like, does that have any relation to that at all? And I thought, no, like that just actually doesn't make sense. So it might take you a while to sort of unravel the reasons as to why you've become so anxious about this. But I want you to really ask yourself, if your fear is related to having an accident in public, I really want you to ask yourself if that is as scary as you're making it be. Because I know for me, obviously that happening is like an embarrassing thing, but it's just not as big of a deal as I personally was making it out to be, and I'm sure a lot of other anxiety sufferers make it out to be. Like I said, I've had friends who this has happened to, and honestly, like, I'm being 100% honest when I say this, it was a funny thing for them as well as for the people they were with. And it wasn't funny as in like, haha, you're so embarrassing. It was funny as in like, that's wicked, like that's such a funny story to have. You know, cool, like I just didn't care, and I don't think anybody else cared either. I just don't think it was a big deal. And then yet when I think about it happening to me, I'm like, oh my god, that's the worst possible thing that could happen. Like, I just wouldn't be able to go on. But seriously, of course I would. I've been through a lot of embarrassing things in my lifetime, and I've always made it through every single one of them. Yeah, I'm just making it out to be such a bigger thing than it needs to be. And obviously that's something that you really need to look at and go, is this disproportionate? And if it is, just keep reminding yourself of that. So when I'm in the car, and obviously that's like my trigger point, and that's when I think about these things the most, because that's when I genuinely am not near a toilet. And these thoughts come on, I ask myself, if this did happen, would I actually not be able to manage it? Like, what would stop me from pulling the car over and using a bathroom somewhere, or you know, what would stop me from holding on or just being able to deal with it? And if the worst did happen and I shit myself or I wet myself, wouldn't I just be able to deal with it and then go on with things? Like, honestly, it's not like the world would end at that moment. Like, I would literally just keep going. So breaking down the fear, looking at whether it is real or not, and looking at whether it is actually as scary as you're making it out to be. I mean, that's always a good thing when you're looking at anxiety disorder. Is it actually as terrifying as you're making it out to be? Probably not. 99% of the time, probably. And the other thing that I tell myself is that literally everybody poops. Like, that book is so true. This happens to everybody. You know, obviously not everybody has this huge anxiety about it, but like, everybody goes to the bathroom. It's a natural, normal bodily function, and it just isn't something to keep working myself up so much over. The next thing that helped me just feel normal about this was that I used to freak out about going to the toilet, because I went to the toilet so often that I was like, you know, it's like, say I was at work, Again, this was pre-agoraphobia days, but I was like, I need to go to the bathroom again. I just went, everybody's gonna judge me. I really worked hard on just letting go of that, again, that fear of judgment, but you know, just that feeling of what people thought, and just releasing that, just going, you know what, like, I don't even care if people are like, far out, she goes to the toilet a lot. Because I can just make a joke about it with them and be like, yeah, sorry, I drank heaps of water today, or I get anxious and it makes me feel like I always need to pee. And then maybe they'll be like, hey, that happens to me too. Like, who knows who goes through it as well. But just sort of becoming comfortable with having to go to the toilet a lot. My family is really used to me doing it. They're pretty used to me like going to the toilet before we leave the house, going to the toilet when we get to where we're going, you know, going to the toilet before I leave there. They're just used to it, and it's just like, honestly, no one really cares about it anymore. I'm not saying that you should get comfortable with the behaviors, like the anxiety behaviors of going to the toilet like every 5 minutes like I did at the Incubus concert. That's not normal, and that's not what you should be doing. But if it makes you feel comfortable to, say, go to the toilet more frequently than the average person, then that's fine. Like, just don't make that be such a huge thing. I know there's been a couple of times where I've been in a public toilet and I'm like, I've been here for so long, what are people out there thinking? Are they judging me? But genuinely, I have never walked into a public toilet and stood there and timed how long somebody was in the stall, unless it was just a single stall and I was like, come on. But yeah, I've never done that. I've never judged anybody else who was in a public toilet. I don't think anybody's judging me if I've been in there for longer than 5 minutes. Like, I really just don't. It's just another one of those things that we blow up in our mind to be this huge judgy thing that just isn't. People aren't focusing on you. Don't worry so much about what they're thinking or if they're noticing what you're doing, because they're probably not. You know, I'm so wrapped up in my own shit all the time that I don't really notice other people around me, because I'm just thinking about me exclusively. And that, yeah, that sounds like it's bad, but I'm not focusing on what the person next to me is doing, because I'm just thinking about me. And that is generally the same with every other person. So if you're in a public toilet or somebody else's toilet and you're starting to freak out about how long you've been in there, or like what, you know, what other people are thinking of you, just honestly, just let that shit go. Let all that shit go. I mean that in, you know, pun intended there. Yeah, so that's basically it, I think. I can't think of anything else that relates to this topic besides a lot of jokes. If this is something that has happened to you or you've been through, let me know in the comments. If you have any particular ways that you deal with it, I'd love to hear about them. Share them with the rest of us. And yeah, just, if, like I said, if there's one thing you take from this, let it be that you are not alone and that other people go through this too, and you don't have to go through this forever. Alright, thanks guys. I hope you're all having a really great day. I'm sorry this video had lots of dog licking balls and beeping in the background and all the rest of it. Yeah, what can you do?